Oh, there's a question for me from a previous night. Greetings from Scotland.
Hello, Scotland.
Can't wait to see what this is going to turn into.
A weird question, but okay.
Yeah. Before loading, ready, run, what was your job? Funny that I landed on this, asking about keeping my job here. The most recent job that I had before ending up here full time was I worked for the University of Victoria as. Oh God, it's so complicated. I worked 3 years of on and off contract work for them. When I say that, it was 3 years consistent, like it did not ever stop, but the contracts were always different lengths and they were always in the same department. It was tough because you spend 3 years being like, I'd like to buy a house, but I know I can't because I'm working contract work. And so just kind of hanging on, waiting to actually get the full-time job. And I was working in the data center. And it was a fantastic job that had a couple of elements that I wasn't so good at. But it turned here's one good thing, is that my presence proved so necessary. Like they needed somebody who could be doing the things that I was willing to do, which were not programming tasks, because I'm not that kind of guy. But it's like we need people to, having a guy whose job it is to roll up new virtual servers all the time, have some waiting to go so we can actually be rolling out new servers for that kind of thing. And then also be triaging all the tickets that come in, like just having somebody to act as a level 3 help desk. I was tier 3 help desk is what I was essentially. Which was great for me because it meant that I had access to all these guys who were running the servers and everything, and I could always be asking them questions and learning a lot more about that side of IT, which is something I didn't have an opportunity to learn earlier in my career. So this is like a new facet of getting to learn all these things. And I liked the job well enough. The coding work that I ended up doing at one point, I was miserable at. And it's probably the reason why I didn't end up getting the job when it became a permanent position. But they did create a permanent position, but I had to leave because my contract had expired, and they're like, we literally can't, this is going to sound so weird, but this is unions. I was not employed in that job. I was employed in a different job, and they had been extending my contract in this different job that had nothing to do with data center work. I had basically kind of been seconded over to this department, and they wanted to keep someone who was doing this help desky tier 3 triage work. So they had to build a brand new position. If they had kept me at the end of 3 years, which was automatic at the end of 3 years, according to union rules, that's how that would work. But then they would have had to have kept me in my current job description. They would not have been allowed to say, well, we're going to keep you, or we're going to keep you in this brand new position. Like, no, we have to advertise the new position. Right. You have to apply for it because that's the union rule. The union rule is that anybody who's going to have that job, we have to solicit it from everywhere, even if you're the favorite. We have to get everyone we have to fairly advertise it. And we can't just let you stay in your current job because then you would have been a media, whatever I was doing, media relations is what I was doing beforehand. It's like, you would be that, and that doesn't belong in the data center. And it's like, that's very true. My JD that I haven't been doing in 3 years at all, I haven't been doing any of that. I didn't even have really a job description when I came in to do that job I was doing for them for 3 years. I was doing something completely different than what I was actually contracted to do. But we dealt with that, and it was fine, and the work was getting done. So when that contract was up, about a few months went by of me doing work at Biotrace's Media, just like doing the more and more of the like acting and like helping out and doing those kind of things. And eventually when I got a job offer from the Canadian Armed Forces at the same time that Graham said, hey, how would you like to just work here full time? And I'm like, I can either go to the Canadian Armed Forces and, I don't know, maybe like do IT work on a submarine or some crap. I don't know what they're going to have me end up doing, right? Probably just
you either work here or you get drafted.
Exactly. Or I could wake up at 10:39 in the morning and come to work whenever I wanted to. And I was like, I think I like not having to be beholden to the military for any reason.
Yeah. With all due respect, Beach, you do not keep what we would call military hours.
I only tell time in military time. I do not keep military time.
Technically, military hours are all the hours.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for more detail on what Beach and other folks did before Loading Ready Run, you could check out the 20th anniversary podcast,
Yes.
where Graham and myself talk all about the history of Loading Ready Run, and also talk with all sorts of folks from both present, and past Loading Ready Run contributors. It was quite fun.
My previous job at Stockholms universitet, jag talar lite svenska. The contract was structured. The union agreement was, I think it was right. This was right, that if if you were employed at one job for 3 years, you would get a permanent position,
All right.
Yeah,
which would have been very nice.
that's a pretty. I think they often build those kind of things into. union
But the
contracts.
contract I was hired on was structured in such a way that I could work there for 3 years and no longer.
Yeah,
I knew that this was a fixed term
it's
position going in, but
it's one of those difficult things where it's like you can fully understand the reasoning behind that rule, but when you're on the wrong side of it, you're like, this really sucks.
I would have been quite happy to stay in Sweden and keep doing astronomy, but once I left astronomy, like Sweden, Stockholm. There's a lot of nice things. There's some drawbacks. The winters. I don't like the ground being icy. Also my experience in Sweden was affected by the fact I was in Sweden during the pandemic. And it made me realize that I want a lot of the people I was working with, they weren't necessarily Swedish, but they were European, and they could go home for the weekend. And even when there wasn't a pandemic on, you can't really go home for the weekend from Sweden to Canada.
No.
So like coming out of that was the important thing is like if I can't do astronomy anymore, I want to be closer to friends and family. So I came back here.
Way back in the day when I was a teenager, the first job I had was I worked at the library here in town as it was a program that they had set up I was like an internet helper. And I traveled to all the different libraries in town, and people would like make appointments to like, teach me how internet. And it would take people, and sometimes you're literally showing people like how a mouse works, and sometimes you're just showing people like how to search, how to use Google, or how to search for different things and that kind of stuff. But one of the weird sort of union quirks is that because we were kids basically, and being paid what a kid would be paid. We were being paid basically, minimum. It might even be like sub minimum wage because it was like considered like a training thing. I was super happy to be getting it at the time because I was like 15, and it was some money. But because we were we were sort of peripherally related to working on computer stuff, they made it very clear that we were not allowed to fix any computer stuff because they have, the library has an IT team that are very knowledgeable and well paid, and they don't want this idea that like 15-year-old kids can be bringing them in to do their job. But the problem is, because it's a public thing, the IT team was stretched way thin.
Yeah.
So there's like 2 people for like the entire city or something stupid. And so stuff would happen, like the printer would mess up or something would mess up. And now a librarian, because they have no formal IT training and there's no computer stuff in their job description, are allowed to, they can sort of try to fix it because that's not a conflict. And so there'd be like, the printer would be messed up, and I'd be like, you might want to try doing this. Trying to sort of be like, because like the printer's messed up and the guy to fix it won't come for like 3 days. Like, you could,
If a hypothetical printer was broken,
yeah.
and a completely
I read an interesting article the other day about broken printers.